number one thing I want to ask you, someone's an entrepreneur, they're listening to this, and they are not getting enough leads in general, and they're literally thinking that what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to do just posting stuff on my Instagram over and over again, and people are going to magically appear. If there's one step now I should take to change my tactic, first thing I should do, aside from get the book, would be what?
So if I needed to make money tomorrow, and I was that guy, it's the first of the core 4 in the book, which is warm outreach. And so what that means is I go through my email and I look at every single contact that I already have already in my email list. I open up my iPhone or my Android and I go down my contact list and I download that and I export it. And then I look at every one of my social media profiles. I've got 700 followers on Instagram. I've got 400 friends on Facebook, and I list out all the people into one Mondo Excel sheet. That is my first leads list.
Yep.
And I reach out to them and I open with something that has nothing to do with my profession, which usually has something to do with their life. And so I take the 30 seconds before I message everyone, because you only have a fixed amount of people. And I would say, what's new in Sarah's life? Sarah just had a kid. Sarah just moved. Sarah just had a baby. Sarah just competed in Tough Mudder, whatever. And then that would be my opener. And then it's how's things, right? And then once you have how's things, then you transition, you can move the conversation into whatever direction you want. If I'm selling fitness, I would say, oh, well, how do you have time to, cook food and get in shape? If it was, I was career coaching, I'd be like, how are you making time for work and your career goals? If I was talking about, if I was selling therapy, I would say, like, how's your mental state with like crushing all these goals, but like, are you taking time for yourself? Like I could, I could sell anything from once I have their attention, and we use something that I call the ACA framework, which we learned from the gym world, but it works with anything. It's really just how to talk to a human being. But it's acknowledge whatever they said, compliment them on a legitimate compliment, and then ask the next question. And so a lot of people just don't know how to have a conversation. And so whenever someone says, I did the Tough Mudder, I would say, it's so cool that you did the Tough Mudder, compliment, which would then say something like, that's so tough of you. I would say, it's so cool that you take that time to push yourself. You must be that type of person. I would label them with something that I want to use later in the sale. And then, and then the ask is, let me move the conversation forward, right? And so I then have my big list of every single contact that I have, and I start with the open hook that's personalized to them, and then I move them through ACA, and then I set them up for a 10-minute qualification call of some sort just to make sure that they like whatever it is. And then I would set up for a real conversation. So, and if you're curious, what does that 10-minute call look like?
Yes.
It's so I use something called the closer framework. And it's not that this is the perfect way to sell. It's just it's a simple acronym that I use to organize sales scripts. And so C is clarify why they're there, right? Because they got on the phone for a reason, or they decided to respond back to you for a reason. And so it's the first obstacle that comes up in any sale is someone says, I just wanted more information. Well, no, they didn't. They got there because they have a problem. Like, you're not just hopping on phone calls for information all day. Of course you're not. Right. Like, you can make that joke if you want to. Right?
Really good.
Right. And it's like, well, because then you just clarify, like, what problem do you want to solve? Like 6 months from now, what do you want to have happen? And then the person's like, well, I can't fit in my jeans anymore. And you're like, right, boom, I've clarified where they're there. Then you restate it with L, label them with a problem. So to be clear, you're not the weight you want to be. You're currently how much? 200 pounds. What would you like to be? My high school weight. What's that? 130. Got it. Gap. Okay, cool. So then we go CL. Now we go to O. So this is the closer framework. O is overview their past experiences. This is what I call the pain cycle. So you say, what have you tried so far? How did that work for you? What did you like? What did you not like? Whenever they say the things that they like, you mental note of that so that when you present your solution, you're going to talk about and tie the things that they liked about it.
Part of their buying map.
Yeah. And then the pain part is where they're like, oh, this was terrible. It's too hard to follow. They didn't pay attention to me. No one followed up, blah, blah, blah. And so then it's like, well, what else have you tried? And so we just keep doing until we've exhausted all the pain. And whenever you bring up past experiences, it always aggravates and increases in importance. So like in the political world, whatever the news cycle is on, people will say is the most important issue of the election. And it's really just whatever the media chooses to, whatever piano key they want to play on everyone's emotions that month. But it works the same way on a micro level in a sale. So whatever you're talking about in the pain cycle is going to be the thing that they now think is more important. Maybe my health is more important. Maybe the cleanliness of my house is more. Maybe I do need insurance, like whatever it is, right? And so in a set call, we stop there. So you basically go clarify, label, overview the past experiences. They're in the middle of pain and you're like, I think I can totally help you. I don't have time right now. Let's put a because this is like a cold, like basically it's a set call. Now, if someone has, if you're selling a smaller ticket thing, then you can go cradle to grave, right? You can go to clear to close if you want to. But if you're selling an insurance product, you're trying to buy, get them to do a house or do a longer sale, then cool. Then let me put some stuff together for you so I can give you a much more informed answer, but I think we can really help you.
Can I ask you a question before you do that? Do you get any commitment from them? Like if I can end up helping you, are you open to me solving the solution for you, or do you not get any hook close at that point?
Yeah, we call it the integrity tie down.
Yeah.
So we have this big checklist that we call the lead nurture checklist, but it's like 17 things that we do whenever we take on a portfolio company. We always look at their show rates on appointments, and we can usually take all show rates, even in the coldest prospects, to 85%.
Yep.
But it's like everyone's like, what's the one? There isn't one thing. You have to do like 17 things that each bump you by 5 to 7%.
But I like it. So you're going to end the conversation there with some probably minor commitment close that if you can solve the problem, they're going to move forward when you get back together.
100%. Okay. And so then when we go to the second call, we still go through CLO again. And you'd be like, again? And you're like, sure will. And you just dive a little bit deeper into all of them. And then you go SER. So S is sell the vacation. And I use this acronym, this moniker, because I say you want to sell the vacation, not the plane flight. And so a lot of people, when they want to sell stuff, they talk about the widgets, right? They talk about TSA. They talk about checking their bag and taking their shoes off and who they're going to sit next to on the plane and the seat and how long the flight's going to be and the modules and the services and whatever. But people just want Maui.
Yes.
And so you should be describing the beach and the ocean and what they're going to experience the moment they get into the hotel room, right? And they can open up the curtains and they look out the window. Like, that's what we should be describing, not how they're going to get there. So you sell the vacation, and then ER is explaining what their concerns. So once you sell the vacation, that's when you make the ask. And then E&R is, okay, if they don't say yes immediately, totally reasonable. Most people don't. Expect no. Train for no, because that's where you make the money. And then we explain away their concerns. And so, for us, I train on 3 major obstacles, which is they correspond to the distortions of reality from Dr. Albert Ellis. Yeah. And so you've got people who are upset at the universe, so circumstances. That's on the outermost layer. And then the next level underneath, and this is like an onion. So if someone says no and they say time, money, this isn't the perfect fit for me, all of those are circumstantial. And that's the easiest thing to say, and that's the first thing people say when they say no. The second level underneath of that is other people. So first, people are upset and distorted about the universe. Everything's unfair, nothing goes my way. The next level is because of insert person, blame finger goes out. My kids, my husband, my coworkers, my mom, whatever it is, won't let me do this thing. And so they put all the power in the other person. And so we have to break that apart and get somebody who's in power who can actually make a decision. And usually, I am a big believer in sales being an actual empowerment conversation. Because if you're talking to an empowered decision maker who's informed, that's the only person you want to talk to. That's right. And I believe a well-structured sales conversation can increase the number of people who are that person.
Agreed.
And so the final layer, the deepest one, is themselves. Right. And so they have their own fears that they have to overcome and doubts about what's going to happen. And so we work through those layers until we eventually have a person who has now made a decision. And so when we can do that, I'm a big believer in like try and get yes and no. Not to be like hard closing, but just so that if someone doesn't give a decision, then we want to walk them through how they make decisions so that they can make a decision about your product. And so as we're going through it, so that was basically just like the explain away concerns. And then finally, R is that the person says yes, and you reinforce the decision. Okay. And so a certain percentage of sales, especially in high volume transactional sales organizations, people back out. They get cold feet, et cetera. And so what we try and do is the moment someone closes, we want the next 24 hours to be unbelievably choreographed. Yeah. And so and we're talking immediate. So the moment they sign, or the moment the credit card goes through, they get a text from the onboarding person, or we do a warm handoff like, hey, this is Shirley. Shirley's going to be taken from here, like I said earlier. And so what we want to always do is set expectations, meet expectations, set expectations, meet expectations. And I have changed my tune about this. I used to always say over-deliver. But I've come to the point now where I genuinely believe that if you just keep your word,
you nailed it.
They will trust you more. And ideally, and this is a little hack for everyone, if you're any type of services business, let's say you're an agency that does SEO, whatever, and it takes you 14 days to on-ramp somebody. Rather than saying we're going to touch in every week, right, which would be fine, and that's what most people do. In that week, you probably do like 25 things, right? But you're going to have one meeting. If you want to be really clever, every day, send an email that says, hey, no need for reply. Just want to let you know we did these 3 things. We'll recap at the end of the week, but I just want to let you know where we're at. If you send progress reports every day. What happens is you create multiple reinforcement cycles. And so you're setting and completing. And so at day 7, when normally your competitor has only talked to them, this is the first time they talked to them since the sale, you had a warm handoff and they've received communication from you every single day. So this is like the 8th touch point for them. And now their trust in you is so much higher, which then translates to way lower backouts, way higher ascensions into whatever your next revenue thing is, or the next product or expansion revenue, and more referrals and testimonials. Yeah. And so we try and choreograph that process, and that's the R. And so close your framework, clarify where they're there, label them with a problem that you can solve, overview their past experiences, the pain cycle, sell the vacation, not the plane flight, explaining where their concerns, and then reinforce the decision.
Okay.